At that time I was 17 years old. So I mean, winning championships in Chicago was it was so it got to the point where we just expected it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And during that time, I mean, we heard the rumors. We knew a little bit more about what was going on behind the scenes. The fans that was outside of Chicago, and we
Well,
we knew about a little bit about the drama, but
right.
there was no doubt in our mind they was going to bring them back.
You
So
talk about Chicago and sports, and you can't hide nothing from the media. Chicago media are hound dogs. They want the truth. They get the truth. As far as organizations, general managers, owners, starters, players, and Chicago, they're relentless. They're not going to stop till they get the reality of it. And it became like, so I was 19, 18, 19 at the time. Before I'm about to say, it became like the Jerry Springer show on the news when it came to the Bulls. Everybody, and I used to work for Jerry. I started in '97, but
okay.
um, it became like that. Watching this news, and as a fan, I'm sure you're probably going to agree with me and other people watching. How can anybody think about getting rid of Michael Jordan or not wanting to win another championship? After
Yeah,
winning
that was
five
that
already.
was one of the that was definitely one of the things that made Jerry Krause very unpopular with the fans in Chicago was the fact that he wanted to break that team up. He tried to do it on a couple of occasions, and made him one of the very things that made him very unpopular with the city of Chicago and with the players themselves. Like you saw in the clip, they were winning. Why fix it if it's not broken? So
Right, exactly. So you're talking about the most popular player in the world, okay? Talking about why would you want to, like you said, if it's not broken, there's no need to fix anything. I mean, this guy, Michael Jordan was in his own world, but he loved he didn't just care about himself. He cared about the Bulls. I mean, if you go back in the beginning of that of the documentary, if you can remember, he said he came to Chicago. He wanted to put the Bulls in the same status as the Lakers, the Celtics, teams of that nature with great history. You remember that part, right, my man?
right, and he definitely did. And just to piggyback on what you said, not only was Michael Jordan on another planet as far as like a superstar, that Bulls team was the number one sports team in the world. We're not talking number one basketball team. They were the number one sports team in the world in any sport, football, basketball, baseball. They were the number one team, period. And you're talking about breaking the number one team ever up. It made a lot of people upset. Not just the city of Chicago.
My mom may be watching, so I want to mention this. Everybody and anybody who had a television back then, my mom was in love with Steve Kerr, Michael Jordan. She used to say in the tent, Che Bell, come here, Bell. These guys, they're so handsome and beautiful and what. I mean, for my mom to fall in love, and you couldn't talk. She would literally say, "Everybody, shut up. The Bulls are on," and that was from the beginning of the playoffs till the end. That was my
Oh yeah,
mother, a woman
oh
off the
yeah,
boat
that
from
was.
Italy who fell in love, obviously, with not only American culture but American sports as well. And being from Chicago, knowing her kids love sports, we that was our thing to groom ourselves together, have that bond. But she got. You're talking about people that fell in love, and I mean, were truly proud of the Bulls. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If it was
even
my
us.
mom, it was everybody, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, even us as kids, we would be outside playing and playing basketball or hanging out and doing our thing, and we would literally stop it just in time enough to get home, get in front of the TV just in time enough for the game going. That's how it was when I was growing up in Chicago. We would be out hanging out and be like, oh, it's time to go. Bull's about to start. And we would disperse and everybody would go home. Maybe we would come back outside after the game went off, or maybe we had something to talk about the next day. But I mean, it was just a Chicago thing. Life stopped when the Bulls got ready to play. Nothing else mattered when the Bulls was on.
That's
Unless
true.
somebody died, don't call me.
That's it. That's it. And my mom was like that. And my mom, a woman who came from Italy, uh, nothing else was mattered when the Bulls were on. All right, guys, that was our first clip. We're gonna go now to our second clip here, and let's watch it. And we're gonna take a look here now at another part of this documentary from part one, and we can discuss some things. So
sounded.
All right. Now, I mean, we all saw the feedback on Monday about that man right there, Jerry Krause. So but I think we could have our own one whole episode on him and everything, you know. But let me start with this. Let's try to put it in certain perspectives in order here. All right. So Jerry Krause, we could say the tension started overall because of his jealousy, not getting recognition of like everybody else was getting for the championships. We could agree on that, right there?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so we take it from there. He allowed, I mean, as everybody's seen, I mean, there was no surprise. Phil Jackson even said, okay, there couldn't be any reconciliation between them by the time they got to the final season as champions. That last, the last dance. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no reconciliation. Now, we saw the clips. We're going to talk about that, about other players literally calling out Krause in public. I mean, about certain things. So my question is, how much percentage-wise, because I think they could have kept going, okay? I mean, if I'm Phil Jackson, and now here's the clip there, that where, you know, if you remember, he's talking about, he's in his office, you know, he got the 1-year extension for $6 million. And Krause is telling Jackson, I don't care if you win 82 games, this is your last year. I would have told Jerry Krause to go fuck himself. You know what I mean? I would have said, you know what? Go fuck yourself. I got my $6 million. But Phil Jackson was more composed like that. You know, he said, that's fine. He just said, that's fine. I would have said, go fuck yourself. Because I think Phil knew he was the cause of all these problems that, I mean, nobody could imagine problems. You guys are 5-time world champions, and you're allowing drama to cost you more championships besides the last one you won. I mean, do you agree with all of that?
Yeah, a lot of the drama Jerry Krause caused himself. He was battling his little demons inside, the little demons within himself. You know, his ego was getting in the way. And of course, our players and coaches was a little bit above him on the pay scale. And you got to give him some credit because, I mean, he did trade Charles Oakley and bring in Bill Cartwright.
We did get Bill Cartwright, and we did get Pippen.
Yeah. You know,
we did get Pippen,
so
too.
We got Pippen and Horace Grant. He put that team together. You know, you got to give him props for that. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you owe some loyalty to those players.
Going off of what you said, the man that put it together wanted to end it. Also, wanted to be the man to end everything because that's how he felt. I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
His ego got in the way. You know, like you said, everybody was getting the recognition. Phil Jackson, you know, all of the players, you know, who was out there making the jump shots. He was out there winning the games, and he kind of got overshadowed by the Michael Jordans and the Scottie Pippens and the Phil Jacksons, and his ego got in the way. And he felt like he wanted to, you know, blow it up and do his own thing to let everybody know that he's boss, that he was running things. And at this point in time, you know, the superstardom was taking over. You know, the players and the coaches was bigger than the GM. You know what I mean? So
right.
It was on him to not humble himself, and he was just insisting on dominance of the team, and it cost us, man. We could have ate the entire decade of the 90s, man, if it wasn't for him, you know? I mean, Michael Jordan could have seriously made sure nobody ate in the 90s, but Jerry Krause blew it up over his own ego.
Right, you know, and you know, you remember Jordan saying he wasn't going to play for anybody else but Phil Jackson. You know, they had the right to defend the titles. He wanted Phil to be the head coach. Now, Jerry Krause, though, I mean, okay, so I think, you know, you heard Jerry Reinsdorf say he was exactly the type of GM he wanted. You know, he bought the White Sox, and Jerry Krause was a scout working for the Sox. He came over to be GM for the Bulls when Reinsdorf bought the Bulls, you know, and he said he was the perfect man for what he wanted to be done as a GM. So obviously, maybe was it a little bit of Reinsdorf in Krause, or was that all? Because I think Reinsdorf, I mean, Jerry could have been a lot nicer to the players if he wanted to during negotiations. Jerry came off to me as just wanting to be a hard ass. It was his way or no way. I mean, you know, do you think that Jerry Reinsdorf was like that because Reinsdorf said Krause was the exact man he wanted to be for his general manager.
Collectively, I believe that it was just Reinsdorf and Krause's their lack of wanting to evolve with the game and how the game and the politics behind everything. There were a bunch of old men stuck in their ways, and everything was evolving. The business side of the game itself,
the salaries,
and they were stuck in their ways, and that didn't want to evolve. You know what I mean? And like I said, it costed us two more championships in the '90s, man. Like
at least.
Yeah. If it's like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And you have to, if you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. They never got a chance to lose those championships. They broke that team up. Nobody got a chance to dethrone them. Right. And that was owed to them. Right. They didn't get it.
Right. And okay, here we go. We're going to go now to the next clip about the no autographs. Now, there's a time and place for everything, man. You know what I mean? The guy would want to. I don't blame. You see the look Jordan gave him? He wanted to smack the taste out of his mouth.
I know a guy that was a caddy for Michael Jordan back in the day, and I mean, Mike just didn't play when he was doing, whether he was playing golf or whether he was playing a game of basketball. My buddy was his caddy, and they told him, don't say nothing to him, don't look at him, don't stare at him, just carry his fucking golf clubs and shut the fuck up. And Mike would go play golf, and I mean that's just how he was. It was a time and place for everything. Right. Me personally, I don't think my balls would have been big enough to even ask him around that time. Let him not even on the street. He's getting ready to go on.
I mean, we saw that clip, but then we saw the clip of the kid. He let the kid come out of the car and sign his autograph. I mean, that's one thing. Yeah, Michael's got a heart of gold. That's a fact. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. But there's a time and a place, man. I mean, and he's all serious on the golf course. I could see your friend asking him when it was done, Mr. Jordan, please. But the guy on this clip we just saw, dude, he's ready to go on a TV show, getting suited for the foot. I mean, it's all about right place and time. I mean,
It all depends on you. I mean, like I said, if you want to go for it. I mean, he shot his shot. It was an air ball.
If he was smart, if he was smart, unbelievable. All right, guys.
Yeah, oh man.
So right now we're going to say thank you for watching.
I want to give a.
Go ahead, Terry. I'm going to let you say some words before we go off the air, and I'm going to say some words.
Yes, I'm an administrator.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. We're not done yet. No, okay. We're ready for another clip. I apologize.
I got you.
Mike's mentality. I'm sorry. Michael Jordan's mentality is coming up here, this clip right now. I mean, I think it pretty much speaks for itself. I mean, he proved everything he said. I mean, Michael talked the talk and walked the walk. I mean, and his relationship with Dean Smith too. I mean, was just, after all, it was Dean Smith who said when he thought Michael was ready to go to the NBA. If you remember that as well, Ter.
Well, yeah, what you just saw, you can't teach that. He was born with that.
God-given talent.
That's in his veins. You know what I mean? That's in his veins. That's cerebral assassin. That's a cerebral assassin. He's a thoroughbred. He was born a thoroughbred. You can't teach that. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't got no heart, you see a lot of guys that were talented and they just didn't have the Mike MJ was born with that. You know what I mean? You can't teach that. And when you got the talent to go with that mentality, I mean, it's just no stopping you. And you see it when he got to North Carolina, man. They said in 2 weeks, he came in as a freshman. He's the best player on the team. And you talking Sam Perkins, James Worthy. You know what I mean? He was playing with some absolute studs. And these guys are saying he was the best player on this team.
Absolutely.
You know absolutely. I mean? So you can't teach that mentality, man. That's the difference between this era and the era that's going on now. They're talented, man, but not too many of them have even a percentage of that mentality right there, man. And that's the difference between the 90s way and what's going on today, man.
I agree with you on that. Definitely a different era and a different mentality. I think Michael, like you said, he was God-given talent, and when he went after high school, by the time he got to UNC, it was just where he had to learn new things because the second he learned them, you know, that was it. The sky was the limit. You know what I'm saying? He just had to polish up what they wanted him to do, and then he never looked back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what the guys explained during the documentary was they gave an in-depth idea of how much of a sponge he was. James Worthy said that they will practice for 2 and 3 hours and he'd be drenched in sweat. And he's walking off the court. And Mike said, "Hey man, let's play some one-on-one. I want to get better." And now they're playing one-on-one and he's helping them and he's soaking up his knowledge. Not only was he practicing hard and going hard in the gym, he was going to the vets and he was breaking their minds down and getting the feel for the game and what to do in the game. And that's what they appreciated with him. They knew he had the talent, but he was getting knowledge from these guys that became great NBA players themselves. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. Guys aren't willing to learn from the vets, man. They'll be talented. They don't want to listen to the older guys. And Mike wasn't like that.
Right. And not only that, but he wanted to see other people improve. He brought the best out of other people, as we saw later on in the documentary. He'd call out people while they were practicing, saying, "Hey, you're doing this, that. When you're going to wake up?" He did that ever since. The knowledge he was given, he wanted to pass it on as well. He wanted to bring out the best out of everybody too, and that's why I love Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
Absolutely. He challenged everybody to be their best.
All right, we're going to go to our next clip, Terry, and everybody watching. It's NBA draft night. Let's take a look. Commissioner.
Wow.
No surprise to me. No surprise to me. He was going to be definitely in the top 5 that year. In the NBA draft after everything. Now, as a GM mentality, there, are you surprised, Terry, that he wasn't picked 1 or 2?
Well, no. Number one, no, because Akeem Olajuwon was just absolutely the man. And at the time, you gotta look at that Celtics team back in the day. They had 5 7-footers. A lot of these guys, they were big. They wasn't as athletic, but they was big. So the big man was one of the main pieces back in the day. So when you got a big man coming out of college with the talent level as Akeem Olajuwon and what he did in college, people don't understand Akeem Olajuwon was a stud in college as well. So I would have probably taken him first as well if I would have had the number 1 pick. Now, if you look at number 2, I mean, Sam Bowie is no Michael Jordan.
That's what I was surprised about. That he was the number. That Sam Bowie was the number 2 pick.
They did have Clyde Drexler, so that's the thing. So they did what made sense. They needed a big man to complement their 2-guard, But now we are, like I said, as the game has evolved, now you're getting these draft picks. They are just taking the best player available. It don't matter if they have a point guard. If the best player right now is a point guard, they're taking another point guard and they figure it out there. But back then, they did what made sense. And, I mean, Portland thought that made sense to go with a big man as opposed to getting somebody to play the same position as Clyde. But being born and raised in Chicago, hey, I'm not mad at it.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing there, and Jordan was happy about it. You never heard him complain saying it should have been 1 or 2 either. I mean, he never said anything.
He just wanted to play the game, man. He was a kid, man. He was ahead of his time, talent-wise, body-wise. But when you talk to him, he was mature. But I mean, you can look at his face and tell he was still a baby. You can hear how he talked and tell he was still a kid. He just wanted to play, man. He didn't care where he ended up.
He took it, his heart, his mentality, his God-given talent, man. Right off the bat, he took it to a whole nother level, man. Ever since he got drafted, that second, absolutely. So, all right, and we're ready for our next clip. All right, we're gonna go to our next clip, guys. Here we go. Well, hey, man, there's no secret on the life on the road and the goods that come with it when you're popular in a sports team or rock star or a movie actor or anything like that, man. I'm not gonna lie, I would have been in the room. I'm not gonna say which part, maybe all three parts, but I don't think I would have left. But I'd probably be already in that room. And
all I'm gonna say to that is that's not part of the G code, But even that's Michael Jordan.
right.
So he said it. Me personally, silence and secrecy. What happens happens. I'll never speak on nothing. Anybody who knows me would tell you what happens in between us stays between us. I wouldn't have said it, but I guess he get the pass because he the GOAT. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
But it makes sense, though. I think, listen, I'm not going to judge or criticize because there's a lot of people watching here right now. And hey, you take me back to the mid 90s, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and everything's available. I'm just going to leave it like that. People, like you said, I've been with people, they're watching. You know what I mean? But as far as maybe it was a different mentality for Mike.
From a bro code standpoint, he probably could have not said that.
Well, he didn't mention any names. And also, though,
you got the entire 84, 85 team sitting in the living room looking at their kids like
I wasn't
in that motherfucker with them. I wasn't. So like I said, luckily Michael Jordan said it. If Scottie Pippen would have said it, it would have been backlash or something.
But yeah, maybe you figure after all this time it wouldn't be a big deal to say. It was over 36 years ago, and 36 years ago. But guess that's the way it was. And let's not kid ourselves. It's all still going on today.
If we gonna be 100, it was the 80s. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it. The 80s is the 80s.
It was the 80s, man. So we just gonna leave it like that.
It was
the 80s. Yeah, we knew what happened back in the 80s, man.
We all know. So, and into the 90s. So, all right. Let's go to the he's only 6'6" clip. Let's take a look.
Pick.
All right, there you see it. Number one, obviously, that proved it wrong there. On what they were saying, they're not one man's gonna, can build a team. Well, we all know that ended up being not true. Michael was definitely the center of the Bulls rebuilding in the '80s until what it became the greatest team of all time. Right there.
Well, at the time they were right. Like I said, look at that Boston Celtics team. They had 5 7-footers, and then other 7-footers that wasn't mentioned. Bill Laimbeer, Bill Walton, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon. It was a big man's game back then. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's when you see what Michael Jordan revolutionized the game. It's one thing to come and change the game. He revolutionized the game. If you look on in that clip, he's wearing the gold chains, the loose shorts, the swagger started to come about the game. The athletic guys started to show up because Clyde Drexler was already there. You know what I mean? That's where you see what Michael Jordan came in and revolutionized the game. That's the difference there's a difference between changing the game and revolutionizing the game. And Michael Jordan started a trend. You know what I mean? And that trend still lives on right now in 2020. So,
and the thing is, with those big guys, they couldn't maneuver like Michael did. They had no idea how he was going to be able to maneuver at 6'6". You know what I mean? You never saw those big dudes, Ewing and them, move the way Michael did. You know what I mean? Not at all.
He was definitely ahead of his time, and I personally, low key, think it was intimidation. I think they knew he was coming, and I think they did everything in their power to stop him. But you just couldn't stop him at the time. He was determined. Like I said, he was destined to be the greatest player to touch a basketball. You know what I mean? And it's just like me as a professional fighter. You know what I mean? Like these young studs, they come after me all the time. Right. And even now, some may win, But at the same time, I don't care if they win or not. I'm gonna take it to them. I'm gonna let them know this is it's not your time yet. It will be. And
Right.
they were just doing their jobs. You can't get mad at them for saying what they were saying. But like I said, at the same time, Michael Jordan, he revolutionized the game. At that moment, that's when the NBA changed for the
Forever.
better
Forever.
because of Michael Jordan. Forever.
Do you
Exactly.
think those guys were intimidated right off the bat, talking like that about Michael Jordan, Terry? Do you think there was already
Uh,
intimidation based on what they seen him play in college and stuff like that? What he had accomplished, national champion, broke
I
those
think it, I
records.
think I think it I think it was because of the hype that was around him when he first came in, and then his dominance so early. Like I said, they said after 2 weeks of practice in Chicago, he was the best player on the team. You
Right.
know, there was time. There was times in those games early on when he was a rookie where
Right.
if they wasn't winning after the third quarter, they would just quit and be looking forward to the next game. And then
Right.
you got this young kid come along and say, "Hey, fuck that! We got a whole nother quarter to play." And then
Right.
he'll go out and do his thing, and they'll come back and win the game. You know what I mean? And the other league was getting heed of what he was doing, and
Right.
everybody just wanted a chance to just take it to him and show that he wasn't a real deal. But you can't stop greatness. Everybody know that.
That what's meant to be is meant to be, as they say. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. And we all know how that went down over the years with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. All right.
Exactly.
Let's see if we're ready for our next clip. Just a few moments on that. We hope everybody's enjoying.
While we got some time, while we got some time, I started a watch party in Shy Bulls for Life. I'm an administrator in that Bulls group. We are the largest active Bulls group on social media.
Nice.
Largest active group. We work specifically with the Chicago Bulls organization, the Chicago Bulls digital team. They are watching. I want to give a shout out to CB4L, all of my administrators, Angel, CJ, Jared, Takara, my brother Esau, Dante, Darian, everybody that's watching inside of the group. I want to represent y'all. You know what I mean? Let y'all know that I got nothing but love for y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. I mean, we got big stuff coming for next season. We've been working with Camille and the Bulls digital team. We got some fun shit coming up for y'all. We're going to do even more giveaways, player shout outs. I just want to give a shout out to CB4L. If you want to join the Shy Bulls for Life, go ahead and click the link and join and answer the questions. It's 3 short questions. We'll let you in. Come listen to some real Bulls talk.
That's awesome, man. I got to look into that for sure. Absolutely. And I'd like to welcome everybody you just mentioned there and everybody else watching. Hello, we got Bulls fans are all over the world. That's a fact. So great to hear about all that you have put together for the team and the legacy to continue for the Chicago Bulls in the future.
You see what the background say? It's authentic. You see what the background say? We are authentic fans.
That's right.
We're not a group full of fans who just became fans when Derrick Rose got drafted. People in this group went through the hard times. We went through the championships. We went through the worst record in the league, the comeback, where we are right now. It's authentic. It's no filter. It's raw. You don't have to filter yourself when you come in this group. You can talk your shit. It's fun. We got 12,000 active members.
That's
active.
Awesome.
So
That's
come
awesome.
on in and come on, show some love.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, based on that, make sure you, one more time, Terry, what was the group again?
Shy Bulls for Life. CHI.
Right.
Bulls for the number 4 life.
All right. On that, we're going to go now to season 2. Let's take our first clip look here on season 2. All right. So we're back here. I think Terry stepped away for a second. There he is. All right, Terry, let's talk about it. Now, everybody needs, in sports, you have number 1s and number 2s. We're going to talk about hockey right now. For the Blackhawks, you have your Patrick Kane, you have your Jonathan Toews, all right? Modern day hockey. Basketball, back then, teams had their 1s and 2s. Scottie Pippen, without a doubt, was the second best player in the league. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. He was the perfect complement to Michael Jordan. If you look at it now, it's hard to even imagine anybody else to make that run with Mike and make those championship happens, man. Like, I never liked the term Robin and Batman when it came to Scottie and Mike, because Scottie was equally as talented. He wasn't. He was equally as talented. He did a lot of shit to help Mike. Mike only had to worry about scoring. He played defense. He was a great defensive player, but Scotty was Mr. Intangible. He did
Scotty,
everything.
Scotty was
He did
number
everything
one.
to make.
Go ahead. I'm
He
sorry.
made the game so much. He made the game so much easier for Michael Jordan, and that's what people don't understand. He played hard on defense. He guarded the best guy every single night. You know what I mean? He rebounded. He was a voice in the locker room. He made it so much easier for Mike to excel. Mike was great, but he didn't go over the top until Scotty came. So you got to
Right.
give Scotty his credit, man.
And not only Scotty, I mean, he has some record. He's number one over Mike on a couple of things with the Bulls, right? I mean, he's got some all-time.
I believe he it was assist, if I'm not mistaken, and it was rebounds, and it was assist and steals.
Right.
It was
Right.
assist steals, yeah. So Scotty did so much for the team. He was so underappreciated
And how many times
outside of Chicago.
Jordan would get the MVP, but give the card to Scottie Pippen all the time? He knew. That's the one thing I also, you love about Michael Jordan. He always said how much he needed Scottie Pippen to win. You know what I mean? He never denied it.
He made it known. Without no Scottie Pippen, there's no Michael Jordan. And anybody who really knows Bulls basketball will agree. And like I said, us Chicagoans, we have a better appreciation of Scottie Pippen than people on the outside looking in.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why they would call Robin to Batman. Us
Right.
Chicago people never called him Robin because
Right.
he could have been Batman on any other team. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, Scottie Pippen was definitely one of the key pieces to their championship. With no Scotty, I don't think we would have even got one as early as we would have,
Absolutely. I mean, and then you saw those stats on those numbers. He was sixth being paid on the Bulls, number 6. And then we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go to our next clip right now, guys. All right, and now we were just starting to talk about it before we went to the clip about the salary, how much he was worth with the Bulls overall in the league, and everything else. I mean, it was just heartbreaking to see how he was, being treated that way.
His explanation was pretty much what anybody. He said, you're talking about 2 people in a wheelchair in your house you got to take care of. You got 12 brothers and sisters,
Right.
parents. It's $17 million. You know what I mean? It's hard. Even me, $17 million. I'm not going to turn that down either when you got a family to look after. So if from an individual, from a personal standpoint, I get where he's coming from. You know what I mean? So
Right.
It's hard to deny that. It's easy for us as fans to say, oh, 12 million, fuck that. You could have did this and did that, when he got a family at home that he's trying to feed, and he made that very known.
Right.
But on the flip side, let's play devil's advocate. If the owner of the team tell you, don't sign that shit, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Because
the owner of the team would say, hey, man, they bending you over. You know what I mean? Don't do that.
Do you think Reinsdorf knew Scotty kind of had no choice but to take the 18 million, 17 million? I mean, do you think? He would say, once you sign, you talk about Reinsdorf and his contracts. Once you sign, there's no renegotiating. You know what I mean?
But he put it out there. He put it out there. He told me, say, look, man. He put it out there. He said, look, man, look, dog. I mean, they lowballing you. You know what I mean? You might want to go back and renegotiate. But if you sign this, it is what it is.
There's no coming back.
You can't say that, right? I'm not going to go back and negotiate it. And I mean, he stuck with his guns. You know what I mean? And like I said, Scotty went. That was. I mean, looking back now, was a bad deal, man. I mean, 7 years, 19 million. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I said, if the owner tell you, hey, man, don't sign that, man. But I mean, it all worked out in his favor. You can go Google his net worth. It worked out good for him.
It did.
What I mean?
And
he ain't hurt for no money right now.
You know what I love is that clip where Scotty goes, my day will come. You know what I mean? So he well deserved it. Absolutely.
He got paid in Houston. He got paid in Portland. His net worth is over the top right now. You know, I mean, his kids won't be worried about a dollar.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, you know, it worked out in the end for him. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
you know,
I don't want to
you
believe
got
that
guys.
Reinsdorf kind of, felt that he was going to take that, though. I mean, even though he said, don't take it, look it over. But I mean, Sky just didn't want to risk it. You know what I mean? He didn't want to,
But it goes back to what I said earlier. You know,
Right,
what they're doing now, they're renegotiating contracts. They're giving out extensions in the middle of the contracts. These old guys were stuck in their ways. Hey,
right.
17 million you signed for, that's all you're getting.
I'll
And that
see
was
you in
another
7
reason why a
years.
lot
Right.
of the right. That's
But
another
don't
reason
come
why the
back
bitterness
until it's
starts to
up.
grow. Because right, you see these bums getting paid, and you got the second best player in the NBA getting lowballed, and you guys won't even renegotiate. So from a fan standpoint, from a player standpoint, you can understand that. But you know, you just got to look at, there's two sides to every coin. You got to look at it on both sides. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? So I mean, just take it for black and white. You know,
right,
so.
right. All right, guys, let's go to our next clip. All right, so I've had as much anger towards management and stuff over the years. Uh, was Scotty wrong? I mean, I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to go off on that. I think I'm going to
No.
have to agree with Michael Jordan because you're talking about Scotty now is just as bad as Krause, wanting to be selfish, wanting to have his own attention. You know what I mean? I think
Well, I'm
Scotty
gonna
was
look at.
wrong there. He wasn't thinking about his, you know, whole team as a whole. I I understand his frustration, but I think Scotty could have looked at the bigger picture. I would agree with Michael. What do you think there?
Well, it's kind of hard to understand where Mike's coming from. You know, making 33 million and telling the organization the field's not coming back, then I'm not coming back. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Right,
kind of like the pot calling the kettle black in that situation. And at the
right,
same time, he stuck up for Phil Jackson. He
right,
stuck up for Phil Jackson. Why didn't he stick up for Scottie Pippen? You see
right.
what I'm saying? It's a lot of factors that play into that situation. You know, you can agree with Mike, but me personally, I'm going with Scotty. I would have did the same thing, man. You know, let them know. Think about it. They lost their first 4 games on the road. You know, the Clippers took them to I think it was 3 overtimes, and the Clippers was just
Yeah,
ass at the time.
they
You
didn't
know
win
what I
their
mean?
first game till
So
their
I mean,
yeah, it was a
exactly.
triple
So
overtime, right? It was like their fifth game of the season of that season.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I mean, they definitely missed Scotty. You know what I mean? And the statement was made. So
Straight ass
so I
cheeks.
mean, straight. I mean, the Clippers. Do you remember that Clippers team? I'm talking about. They had Brent Berry. I mean, no. I mean, shit. I wouldn't pick Brent Berry up on a pickup game if he walked down the beach and tried to get up on. I wouldn't pick Brent Berry. You know what I mean?
I don't
And
even know if they'd be
he
in the Windy City Bulls league. That team, man, if they belong in with
Man,
them.
man, look. I mean, Scotty did what he did for a reason. I mean, and I was all for him. You know what I mean? Like I said, they suffered. What was they, 4-9?
Ron
They
Harper
started
before he hurt
four and
his
nine,
knee,
or
you
four,
know.
4-5. You know, yeah, exactly. So I mean, if I'm in MJ, I wouldn't be saying things like that when I could have stuck up for him. You know what I
But then
mean? You stuck
again,
up for
it's
Phil
years
Jackson.
later. I don't know. Maybe did Michael feel differently back then? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. But I mean, maybe some things maybe these guys are rethinking about what they thought about then is different years later too. But
If I'm not mistaken, I think if you look at the old clips, maybe Mike was a little bit bitter. You know what I mean? That Scotty didn't do it, and so he just decided to just focus on the game. I think he voiced his frustrations behind the scenes, but he never said nothing publicly. But you can see in those clips, if we interview him after the losses, you can see the frustration in his face. You can hear it in his voice. You
right.
know what I mean? And there's no doubt in my mind he was handing out mouth shots in those locker rooms while Scottie Pippen was out and they wasn't playing like they were supposed to.
I think deep down, uh, he's Phil's you know point of All right, that was Phil's point of view, and it was kind of like what you were saying, Terry. But my thing is, I think, I want to go back to you said about with Mike and his feelings about Scotty. I think Mike wanted to go more than just one more year. I think Mike really wanted to go 2 or 3 more years with this team. That made him feel that way. You know what I mean? I think Phil thought Phil had his point of view about it, but I think Phil Jackson wanted to go a couple more years as well. You know what I mean?
Well, Mike made it very clear. He said, "Well, let somebody come take the throne from us." He said it he made it very clear. We're winning the championship. Somebody has to come dethrone us. And until they do, let's keep eating. Let's keep Reggie Miller from getting the ring. Let's keep those Knicks from getting the ring. Let's
Right.
keep, Stockton and Malone from getting those rings. Let's eat all decade, And like I said, you got these once again, I keep picking back these old guys stuck in their ways, didn't want to evolve. You know what I mean? And it was to the point where they would rather blow it up and start over. Kraut's daughter got married, and he invited everybody, Tim Floyd, everybody to the wedding, didn't invite Bill Jackson. Like he's, doing these little petty things, you know what I mean, to make it known.
Right, and it didn't bother Phil. It didn't bother Phil. But even Jerry Reinsdorf said that Krause, was kind of ignorant for doing that, but didn't bother Phil, But that was his point of view about Scotty, thinking everything was going to be okay, would fall into place, and that we're going to be able to move forward. So.
Yeah, Jerry Krause, short man.
So was Michael Jordan wrong for calling Scotty selfish based on that?
I don't say he was wrong. I say he shouldn't have done it. Like I said, you making $33 million. You demanded your coach come back. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So don't get mad for another motherfucker vouching for himself when you're not vouching for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not saying he was wrong because he's the greatest player on the planet. You know what I mean? So I just personally feel he shouldn't have said it. He should have just left it alone.
You know what I mean? I think though, when it comes down to Phil's problems, Scotty's problems, MJ's problems, I think besides having Reinsdorf and Krause adding their problems, I think everybody deep down inside wanted to keep going as long as they possibly could. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was all building up between them also.
And another thing, you also saw in that clip the genius of Phil Jackson. He was the common median of all the chaos that was going on around Mike calling Scotty selfish. Jerry Krause is being petty. He's going through the short man syndrome. And you got Phil Jackson as mediator. He's letting everybody beat him. You know what I mean? And he's the glue. He's holding things together. So you got a little bit of the genius that was Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? He was definitely needed, you know what I mean, to keep everybody's personality together. Anybody who can keep Dennis Rodman somewhat in check, you got to give him credit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
let him do a little bit, and then once he got out of control, Phil brought him back, say, hey, man, you doing a little bit too much. Chill. And then we'll let you do a little bit later on, but chill right now.
Right.
So that showed you a lot of Phil Jackson's, his genius and how he just kept everybody. He let everybody.
His overall influence, period. His overall influence on everybody.
He let everybody be themselves, and he kept everything together. You know what I mean? So that clip right there was just it was just beautiful to watch because Phil Jackson was just such a mastermind as far as like the game and people. He knew how to deal with people. He knew how to deal with everybody individually and as a whole. So that was just beautiful to watch, man. It gave me chills, man.
Cool, calm, and collected. Phil Jackson for sure. So now, let's go now to MJ's sophomore season. All right, so we've all seen it now.
That was some goddamn shoes, man. Did you see this shit? That was some shoes, man. He had no soles on them. Oh boy.
That was before the Air Jordans came out, right?
But no, that was the first Jordan shoe. Them goddamn shoes was ugly, man. I mean, they later got better, but that was them shoes, man. He came down playing in those shoes back then, and the Converse and the shoes they played in back then, man. You might as well have been running around playing with no shoes on, man.
He could have fell the wrong way too. Just that impact though. I mean, coming down like that fast. I mean, it could have been the shoe. Could have been the way he landed too. I mean, the littlest thing will cause you a problem like that. I know from experience because I fractured my whole foot, my ankle. I have metal up to my knee and all of my foot. Work-related injury a couple of years back, and I mean it was the slightest thing, just like that. Next thing you know, you're on the ground, you can't walk.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it. So let's talk about the impact on that and how his road to recovery was and his mentality. You know, he went back to North Carolina to practice. He didn't tell the Bulls that he was going to be playing games. And, I mean, it just goes back to superhuman, God-given talent, the way he came back from that, the way he trained and played at North Carolina to come back to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You know, I mean, back then they didn't have the technology that we have now, and those type of injuries ended your career, man. You know, so if you look at it now as an adult, and you like, man, I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have done it. I would have recommended. So from thinking back then, where a simple injury like that, it's an injury like that now, it's simple. You can get the surgery, rehab it, and be back on the court by in a month or two now because of the
Right.
technology that they have. But back then, that was ending your career. So
Right.
I mean, like I said, it goes to show his mentality back then. You know.
All right, let's go. Let's take a look at our next clip.
515.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Now, you can see
oh,
Michael's frustration there, okay? Because here, one thing, like you said, he came back from an injury that could have ended anybody else's career, number one, okay? Now they're worried about him actually playing after he came back from the rehab. He was playing games at North Carolina to come back rehabbing. So you understand his frustration. 90 to 10%. I would have been just as pissed off as MJ, everybody being so negative. What do you think about it, there?
well, well, as you know, I'm a pro fighter, and I break toes in practice, and we tape them motherfuckers together, and we keep going. So I can appreciate him saying 90, 10%. You know, like he said, you know, how big is the fucking headache? You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right,
That's your bum fighter in the gym. He's
right,
hurt. He wants to keep going. So
right.
from an athlete standpoint, who pretends not to be hurt so he can stay in the fight, that was just absolutely beautiful to watch. You know what I mean? And like I said, you know, it goes to show to his mentality. You know what I mean? I preach, I stress glass half full when it comes to everything, when it comes to life, when it comes to the gym. Everybody watching that knows me knows that I'm always cup half full. You know what I mean? So just to hear that come out of his mouth, you know, I can't do nothing but smile, man. You know, it goes to show you his mentality, man. You got this shit right now called load management. You know what I mean?
Right,
Guys are
right.
sitting out games because they want to save themselves. And you got a guy right here at a 90% chance of coming back and playing well, and they want to sit him out over 10%, you know? So you
Right,
can
right.
understand his frustration.
I would have been frustrated to the as beyond. I mean, above and beyond frustrated if I was MJ there because you know. And then again, not only is he special with the gifts and talent God gave him, but I mean, just being that strong inside, his courage. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, but
yeah.
you know, like you said, he was willing to take the chance. It was only 10%, and I'm really shocked. I mean, my opinion. I was really shocked at those guys thinking that you know it was going to be that big of an issue. Only you know 10% risk. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. The body does what the mind tell it to. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? Your
Right.
body, you can be dead tired, and your mind tells you to keep going, you'll be able to keep going. And that's what Mike knew that back then. He understood that. He knew
Right.
if he would have been 40%, he would have went out there to go, but 90%. So you can understand his frustration, you know? And it
Right.
goes to mentality, man. With those Jordan, those guys back then, it wasn't just him. He, like I said, he started that trend. Guys started, if they was ready to go, they wanted to get back on the court. Michael Jordan started that trend as well. We talking about revolutionizing the game. A lot of things that happened within the 90s leading up to this next generation, Mike started it. Guys didn't want to sit out back then. You know, if they was able to take that finger to the next one and get back on the court and play, you know what I'm saying? They wanted to get back on the court and play. And that started from watching MJ back in the day. You know, he started that trend.
The mentality and of not only the players but the league changed for the better after Michael Jordan and his situations in playing. Awesome.
Exactly.
All right, now let's look at Michael Jordan. Uh, and reviving, helping out someone else's career here. Let's take a look.
Gotcha.
First.
Unbelievable.
That
Unbelievable.
was
And I love the
God
music.
disguised as Michael Jordan.
That's
That
God-given
was
talent
God
there.
disguised as Michael Jordan. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
That was God disguised as Michael Jordan. And that's coming from the great Larry Bird, man.
God-given
Oh,
talent, man. God-given talent. Could you imagine?
oh,
I
man.
think he'd be, he was MVP in the first game too, MJ, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He
Hit
was
him with
supposed to.
49.
Could you imagine? I don't remember. I don't know anybody else of that stature losing a game and becoming a back-to-back game-winning MVP, both
Oh,
back-to-back like
man.
that.
I think at that point in time that a lot of those guys went on ahead and passed that torch. You know what I mean? Magic Johnson was on the other coast just saying like, man, this dude, like, that's it. At that point in time, the torch has officially been passed. You
They
know what I
they
mean?
hadn't seen anybody like that. You're talking about
No.
the '80s was basically you're talking about the Lakers against the Celtics in the finals, and things of that nature. And their style of playing, they didn't know. Michael Jordan was a whole new style of playing by himself. You
Oh,
know
man.
what I
I
mean?
mean,
Look
just
how many guys
look
tried
at
stopping him on that Boston Celtics team. Look how
look
many
at
guys,
look at that clip.
five of their top stars tried stopping MJ. They
You
couldn't do it.
saw you saw speed, you saw agility, you saw elusiveness, you saw athleticism, you saw skill, you saw heart. That was all in one man. You see what I'm saying? And then that he put that into his teammates because those guys they had to elevate their game to get up there with him. And that's what made Mike the greatest teammate ever because he forced guys who
He,
was average,
he
below
brought
average,
everybody up.
subpar to elevate their game because you had to elevate your game just to play with him. You know what I mean? And that's why Mike is the greatest teammate. He's not only the greatest player to touch the basketball, he's the
Right.
greatest teammate. You
Right.
look at guys these days, a lot of them don't make other guys better. You know what I
No.
mean? You can be great in your own right, but who have you made better when you've been with guys these long? You see what I'm saying? A lot of these guys these days will leave a superstar and then go be great somewhere else. Look
Well,
at James Harden. He played with Russell Westbrook and he played with Kevin Durant. He didn't become the shit until he got to Houston. Vice versa with KD when he went to go. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
Mike
right.
elevated every single person he's ever played with.
Nobody wanted to stay loyal to one team. They wanted to go and be good with teams who already had better players. You know what I mean?
He was the master of camaraderie when it comes to players. That's the difference between MJ and a lot of the guys of these days. The camaraderie.
Right.
Exactly. A lot of the guys today. The camaraderie.
You didn't hear anybody want to leave. The only reason people would want to leave, like with the Pippen issue, was obviously he felt he was being robbed of what he was rightfully supposed to be earning. But you never heard back then.
Exactly.
I'm going to leave because I want to win a championship there. I could win with them, or I could win with trade me there to win a championship. You never heard any of those guys say they want to be traded because they want to win a championship with somebody else, right? I mean,
he didn't want Charles Oakley traded. That hurt his heart. But when Bill Cartwright got here, they needed a big man. He said, "All right, shit, goddamn it, let's do this. Get in the gym, let's get better, let's win." It didn't matter who was there.
They wanted to keep the team intact. They wanted to keep the team intact. They wanted to keep the team intact and keep going as long as they could. You never heard anybody else back then wanting to be traded to a better team, this, that. I mean, no. I mean, you heard it a lot in the 2000s. I'm going to leave here. I want to go play there, and then I could win there. How many people went to the Lakers to want to win? How many people went to Cleveland to want to? You know what I'm saying? It was unheard of back then. But Jordan,
I believe there was an interview with Steve Kerr. I believe there was an interview with Steve Kerr back then, and they asked him what was the difference between where he was in Orlando and the difference between the playing style now where he is, and his answer was, "We got Michael Jordan." You know what I mean? We got Michael Jordan. Anything else? No, we got Michael
Right.
Jordan. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't hear things like that now. You know what I mean? You don't hear things like that now. And when you hear guys, and who Steve Kerr is a great player in his own right, great coach, great player. You know, when you
Right.
hear guys say stuff like that, you know, it says a lot, man. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So based on that, let's take a look at our next clip, guys.
Scotty. Recognize.
And you know, that's how you know. You know, from where I come from, there's a term busting balls. Okay, that's how you know somebody loves and respects you is when they bust your balls. You know what I mean? They break you in. They want to be, you know, part of them. They give you a hard time, but you could tell it's because they want to love you and respect you. So I mean, I guess that was a tradition. There was nothing wrong there with them giving Scotty a hard time because you know everybody loved him right off the bat.
Well, here's the thing: we're discussing basketball, obviously Chicago Bulls, but you and I, we're in the MMA business. We're in the professional mixed martial arts world. And you and I both know when a rookie come in the gym and he has that attitude, you know what we do to him. We throw him in the Shark Tank. See what I'm saying? We humble him. We let him know whether you got the potential or not. You're going to come in this gym, you're going to humble yourself, and you're not going to be able to walk out of the gym for a month. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
absolutely.
Scotty got what he deserved at the time. It humbled him. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he needed to earn his time. And he did, you know what I mean? It was good he had that mentality, you know, but, you know, you come in the gym as a rookie like that and, you know, you act like that, I mean, you get hazed, man. You know, guys come in the gym.
You could tell, though, they wanted to get along with him. You could tell the whole team, though. You could tell they wanted to break him in the way a rookie should be broken in, but you could tell they felt special about Scottie Pippen, though. You know?
Absolutely. You know, that's why Oakley smacked him up. You know what I mean? You know, usually if Oakley treat you like that, that meant he liked you in the first place. You know what I mean? So I mean, he got it. It was good he had that mentality, but you know, a lot of times, you know, you just need to humble yourself. When you go in any sports, whatever sport, whether it's baseball, soccer, it doesn't matter, football field, humble yourself, whether you know you're going to be special or not, because your work ethic will always show. You know what I mean? No matter what sport you're in. If you're great, a guy like me, I've seen guys come in the gym and I'm like, God damn, I'm gonna be watching him in the UFC soon. You know what I mean? But you still need to, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a 13-year veteran and I'm gonna send you home sore every single day until you eat that humble pie. You know what I mean? So, your work ethic will show and people will see it and they will know. And that was just a little lesson for Scottie Pippen to learn back then. It all worked out.
All right, guys, before we show our last clip of the night, we're going to be back for our next week episodes. We're going to have some more for you. But let's watch this last clip, and we'll get to that after the clip. Okay, so let's talk about this last clip here. I want to say about it that what I said earlier in this broadcast, it ended up being like the Jerry Springer show. Everybody's problems was out in the open. It was a circus. But let's talk about what drove Scotty to act like that. Jerry Krause, obviously, you know what I mean? And everything. He felt, not only was it about the money, though, Jerry Krause was making Scottie Pippen feel unappreciated altogether. You know what I mean? It was making him feel like he wasn't important, period, to the team. You know what I'm saying? Then, you know, you talk about when Scotty was insulting Jerry on the bus in front of everybody, that, you know, Phil had to get to the point and say, hey, you know, bring it down a notch. Let's just stay focused on everything else. I mean, but Scotty, it wasn't only about the money with Scotty, though. It was about the way they made him feel as a whole, as a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. At that point in time, it was just complete chaos at the time. You know, Jerry Krause
seemed depressed. Scottie Pippen seemed depressed.
You know, after a while, things do take a toll on you. You know what I mean? Jerry Krause with his pettiness and his short man complex and him flexing his muscle. And Scotty went through 7 years of the BS. You know, he had to try to carry the team on his own, even with the short retirement of Michael Jordan as well. You know, I believe at that time when he led that team, because you got to think about it, you got to remember, they were one bad call away from going back to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. That was a
Mm-hmm.
bad call. Scotty was leading that team when Michael Jordan hiatus. They should have renegotiated his contract then.
Right.
That's when the world knew Scotty was his own man. You
Right.
can talk about them not winning when Mike was gone, but real Bulls fans know that
He was
Scotty
an
carried
All-Star
that team,
MVP.
and it was
Scottie
and it
Pippen
was a
was an
it was a
All-Star MVP.
horrible call. It was a horrible call that kept them from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. Scotty was the man that year. He
Right.
carried that team. I mean, we had Tony Kukoc who came over. Scotty carried that team. They should have renegotiated it then. But like I said, these old guys are stuck in their ways. And it was like Kraus said, it was what it was. And Scottie Pippen became frustrated. Like you said, he became depressed. He was fed up.
Right.
And you can somewhat say he acted a little bit on the diva side. I mean, what do you do when you get an act of desperation? They say you pin an animal in the corner, he attacked. You know what I mean?
And not only that, I think it was everything was in his ear. The papers was writing about how much he was unappreciated, what was really going on. And not only, was he seeing and living it, he was reading about it every day. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. I think, everybody's human. But I got to agree with Mike a little bit. I think Scotty should have talked with Mike or somebody before he made that kind of an announcement because I think he was just feeding the news, the drama. You know what I mean? It fed to that level of drama. I think that the news ate it up and loved it in Chicago. We all know how Chicago news reporters are when it comes to sports. I think they loved eating it up. But, I mean, I wish Scotty would have just talked with Michael. They could have had a talk with themselves. Maybe it would have been a little bit easier. I see what Scotty was definitely depressed, but I got to agree with Michael a little bit, just a little bit more, because I think he should have talked. I think he should have talked with somebody before making that kind of statement. You know what I mean? To the public.
Like I said, it's two sides to every coin. You can agree with both sides. You know what I mean? Mike was right. He was thinking about everybody else was thinking about the team, but at the same time, everybody else was set straight. You're talking about Luke Longley making more money than Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? If you think about Tony Kukoc was making more money than Scottie Pippen during the Olympics, remember? When they went over to the Olympics and they and somebody hey, he's making more money than you. And you remember when Mike and Scotty, they put the clamps on Tony Kukoc over in the Olympics and before he came over to Chicago because they go, he's making more money than you. And that was before he even came over to Chicago. So Mike and Scotty, they gave him a lesson. And let him know, what the deal was. Tony Kukoc came over. The rest is history. But it was just asinine that he was 6th on the Bulls list in pay. And he was 2nd on the Bulls and
what was it in the league? 111th in the league, 120th in the league. I mean, it's just insanity. But like I said, Scotty wasn't only living it; he was reading about it. People were coming up to him. But like you said, there's two sides to each coin there. It's easiest for her to say, hey, I agree with Scotty, I agree with Mike. I wish he would have went to somebody before he made that kind of announcement. But like I said, that's us talking here. So based on that.
At that point in time, shit was just shit already hit the fan. It was already over with.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean,
they knew it was going to be the last year.
Yeah, we got that 6th championship. Everybody was selling themselves for wherever they was going next anyway. So you kind of can't blame them,
Regardless of them wanting to stay as a team, they knew it was going to be the last year, unfortunately, because that's what management wanted.
Absolutely.
So based on that, we want to thank all our fans watching all over Facebook, all over the world. I want to thank all my Fight Card guys on the audio and the visual stuff here, helping us out to bring this broadcast. Terry House from Indiana, thank you for having us, being a part of this with us. Also, I want to thank everybody because next week we'll be back for another session after Sunday's episode. So make sure to watch us next week after they show episodes 3 and 4. Also, this Thursday, all our MMA fans, I'll be on with Brian Angelo. We'll be talking Fight Card Live about the women in MMA. So once again, thank you to everybody back at the studio, Nilo and everybody helping us out with the broadcast from Fight Card. My main man, Terry House in Indiana. Thank you, Terry. We'll see you next week. So on that note, guys, love, peace, and happiness, everybody, and God's blessings. Thank you.
Tune in next week, everybody. Thank you for watching. Next week.